Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 turned in one of the most amazing second weekend holds in Marvel Cinematic Universe history. It bucked the trends. It quite frankly threw off every bit of math and analytical metrics up to that point, with a very soft opening weekend and a very bad Monday drop, one that historically has signaled a 60+% second weekend fall off. But that didn't happen. On the Sunday show, Renegade Online, we talked about why. And I've decided to clip that here and turn it into a video for everybody to watch. We had some great guests stop by and give their thoughts as well, and we want to hear your comments below this video. Here we go. Renegade Online. Late. Everybody had a wonderful Mother's Day with their own moms, or maybe the mothers of their kids, their wives, whatever the case may be. God bless you, and God bless to those mamas out there. All right, Guardians of the Galaxy. Heck of a good weekend. Very surprising, right? And this is the part that I want to kind of dive into, because a lot of people out there, and again, you can throw criticism at me all you want. I don't mind. I've said many times, I'm not always going to be right. And when I'm not right, I'll say I wasn't right. So we thought coming into this weekend that Guardians was going to, based on the numbers, based on historical Marvel movie math, at least for phases 4 and 5, every sign out there, save one, and we'll talk about that in a minute, every sign out there pointed to the fact that this was going to be a bad second weekend. It was going to be a 60% drop. Now, I never thought it was going to be like 72%, whatever the hell it was for Ant-Man Quantumania. That was an atrocious drop because that was just a straight bad movie. But starting where it did, especially with the Monday drop, and people asked, when I put the video out Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever it was, and I was like, Who measures Mondays, man? I got so many comments. Who measures Mondays at the box office? I'm like, well, I do. And the reason is because with Marvel films, it tells us a lot because there's a lot of history there. We can go back and do mathematical analysis of how that works. Well, Valiant, why don't you do Monday box office, first Monday box office videos on other films? Well, because Marvel is unique. Marvel has, 25, 30 movies out in the last 15 years? We have a huge track record to look at versus, say, Super Mario Brothers or Fast X, which is coming out this weekend. We're going to talk about this because that's going to have a big impact on Guardians. Maybe not here in the States, but people forget international. Hang tight. So that's why we can look and we can say, okay, well, we know that a Marvel movie that comes out on a 4-day holiday weekend should have a Monday that looks like this, based on historical trends. If it comes out on a non-4-day holiday weekend, like this movie did, like Guardians 3 did, okay, what should we expect there? A normal kind of healthy first Monday drop for any given picture might be in the 50 to 60% kind of range. If it's a well-received movie. Guardians suffered a 72% drop on its first Monday, and that was after an opening weekend that was really bad.
Uh-huh.
Not like light the place on fire bad, but let's be honest, for a $250 to $300 million spend for a production like this being one of their most popular franchises they've ever had, that opening weekend was pretty bad. I mean, it was almost 30 million under Thor: Love and Thunder from last summer. That shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. And of course, we said that part of the reason for that was that we have this Marvel bad movie drag, right? You can't keep having bad movies like Ant-Man 3 and Thor: Love and Thunder and all this and have it not impact some of the more popular franchises like even Guardians, even with the power of Pratt, right? I love Chris Pratt. Now, when the movie came out, I saw it. I'm like, this is probably the best movie that Marvel has made since the beginning of Phase 4. I enjoyed it. Now, I don't know if everybody's going to enjoy it. It's not what I expected. It's much more dour, but I thought the performances in it were fantastic. I said this in every video I've done. Still, the trolls come after me with, oh, you want this movie to fail. No, I've made it very clear that I liked this movie. I just, that doesn't equate, right? But here's the issue. Coming into this weekend, everything was pointing to the fact, mathematically, everything based on historical Marvel stuff was pointing to the fact that this was going to have a 60% down second weekend. But for the positive word of mouth, what I just said, that I thought it was a really good movie. I thought it was a good movie, or I thought it was the best movie that they've done since the beginning of Phase 4. That really helped propel it surprisingly, because when you have weekday performance, like especially with that first Monday, that was as bad as it was, right? And I'm not saying the Monday should have held on, like Super Mario on a holiday Monday or something like this. No. But 72%, if that movie had held on 50 to 60% in that first Monday, I would have had a very different video. We're not talking about massive ranges here, right? 10 to 15% holds variance can sometimes make a big difference. This movie really surprised this weekend because of the word of mouth, because of the positivity people had, the power of Pratt, man, especially. But I think everybody in this movie gave a pretty solid performance. But I want to make this clear, okay? People, don't conflate the issues. That doesn't mean this movie's out of the woods. There's a lot of competition coming up, right? People are like, it's over 200 million. It's already past Ant-Man 3. Well, thank God Ant-Man 3 was a complete boondoggle. That was a disaster for Marvel Studios. I never thought this was going to be as bad as Ant-Man 3. I said it's probably going to wind up based on how it opened, between Ant-Man 3 and, say, Thor: Love and Thunder. And I still think that's going to hold with relative adjustments like China. Remember, Thor: Love and Thunder didn't have China. Look down at this chart right now. This is one of my concerns. China, and now these numbers on this graph that I'm pointing to that you're seeing me float over, these numbers have not been updated for this weekend. Those numbers are here in the total international box office, but they are still down here. See, rest of world, 143 million. They are still, as of yet, unallocated into the individual countries. My concern with this is China. Look how much bigger China is right now. China is, even after they float these numbers out, just right here, China is 3 times bigger than the next closest international market, which is the UK. Now, I think when it settles out, it'll be double what the UK is. Here's the problem. China's what's driving that international box office for this film right now. Fast and the Furious comes out in China in like 3 or 4 days. Everybody jokes about how Fast X, that doesn't do anything here. No, it doesn't do anything here. That movie is built for international audiences. Go back and you look at what that family of films has done in China and along the Pacific Rim in places like Japan and South Korea. This is my fear. The international box office for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is probably largely about to get shut down. And by that, I don't mean it's going to make zero come Thursday and Friday, folks. But the roll-off from this weekend to next weekend is going to be probably pretty sharp because of Fast X, which has always been a much bigger international performer than domestic. That's how they build these films. And then, of course, you've got the Little Mermaid, so on and so forth. But Guardians still has to get to at least 800 million. And the more of that international box that China comprises, the higher that figure has to get for their break-even point. I don't know how much more this is going to spin out.
Before you get too deeper in the weeds, Valen, because it sounds like you're being hard on yourself. Look, like I just said in the back here.
No, I just want to be fair.
I don't think anybody in our community expected this to happen but me. Like I'm serious. Go back and look all for the last. Now you know it, Steven. Go back to the last week. Who's been saying it the whole time?
Wait, there's
graduations.
I'll go with this. Yes.
I mean, you look back at the Fast and the Furious movies. These are films that generate 75% or whatever of their gross box office outside of the United States.
Which is actually something I keep pointing out, but I would say is a good thing for Disney right now.
Yep.
Because that means they have a better chance of a third weekend of Guardians, pushing them ever closer over the mark. Like, let's be real. You're right about a lot of things in the sense that this movie is still going to struggle to make the rest of its money back.
Yep.
It had a great second weekend, which, like I just said, and I wasn't trying to be all like, I fucking knew and you didn't.
No, not at all.
I'm just saying it because, like I even said, and I even hedged my points, was like, the chances are slim. The chances are not there. You are going off most every single movie that has ever, come out before at this level and where they went from there, going off of how much this movie cost. You are just doing the typical movie math. What this does for the Marvels film, though, is give it a second chance at life of making its money back. What it does for anything else, nothing. You're right about that.
Wait a minute. Are you saying this? Did you say the Marvels will make its money back? This is what this indicates?
No.
Oh, okay. I was confused for a moment.
It won't have any effect going beyond that. Exactly.
Tom, I thought you had lost it for a moment.
No, I think Tom is right in the sense, and that's why I stipulated with the international box office, right? This is what's going to be interesting here. Again, and we have a lot of new people just coming in, over 1,000 of you watching right now. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Mother's Day to you, to your moms, to the mother of your children, whatever the case may be. Or, of course, if you're a mom yourself, thanks for being here. Please hit the like button, the share button. We thank you. But here's the deal. Internationally, again, the Fast movies are always much bigger international players. They're still tracking towards maybe about a $75 million opening weekend for Fast X here in 4 days, beginning with Thursday night previews. Internationally, though, it's going to start, I think, Wednesday, Thursday, a day or two sooner. That's going to suck a lot of oxygen out of the room in some of these. Look at, again, this is why I go back. What is the biggest market for Guardians right now by far and away? China. What has always been Fast and the Furious biggest market, like rivaling the U.S. market, if not blowing it out of the water?
Was it like
it's China. Yeah. China. Next door. It's China. So a lot of this in the international, this is my fear. A lot of this going on in the international side is going to be pulled back. Now, maybe not so much in the UK, but South Korea, Japan, China, that Fast and the Furious is big time over there. Big time. Okay.
Well, let's play this out the most positive way possible. Let's say that Guardians next week pulls in for its third weekend 87-ish worldwide. Okay. Domestic, international combined. Let's say it gets somewhere around that total.
Yep.
That's going to pull it in basically to 600 million for its complete cum. Here's the issue there. It's still got to find 200 million, and that's a hard thing to do after the third weekend.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I think it'll be around 650 by the end of next weekend, which is
I'll go with
better
you.
than what I anticipate. Well, because it's going to rack up some money during the week.
Yeah.
So
but $150 still.
Yeah.
I honestly, here's what I think. I think it can do it. I'm hopeful that it can do it, and I'll tell you why. Well, I mean, we're not talking about this thing making a profit.
No.
But if it could break even with the budget it had, I hope it sends a message to Marvel and to Disney.
Yes.
That the holds are there if you provide quality content. If you can't provide quality content, the days of just throwing out crap on the wall, with Brie Larson and Captain Marvel like they did before Endgame, the days of that's over. You can't do that anymore. You're going to have to give us good stuff. The audience has caught on to the Phase 4 fiasco. The Phase 5 dive is here, and I am hopeful for a Phase 6 fix. Of course, I'm also hopeful for a leadership change at Disney and Marvel, but we'll see how that goes.
I'm just hoping that we get films that come in the future that not only entertain everyone, they're good for families, and they're not going to make you feel like you have to close your wallet again. I think everyone's tired of this. Everyone's just tired of constant negativity, but it's forced negativity. It's literally going by the numbers as well as their track record. If you have a history of all of these things looking at as somewhat failure, then people are automatically going to predict failure. It is constantly repeating the cycle, and that's where Disney is right now, especially with Marvel and their remake properties. They're not taking a chance anymore, and that's the one thing we've been saying for 2 years. They're not taking chances on new things and expanding their box to see where the money can lie.
I will say I was pretty impressed with the Guardians hold this weekend, though. Not to say I love the movie. I love the movie, but I was impressed that they held that well considering how bad Marvel is. But I guess that just shows you when you make good movies, people actually go see them. Shockingly enough. Shockingly enough.
Well, and I think that movie shows the power of word of mouth.
Yes. Yes. 100%. I did. I loved it. I think it's not as good as the first one, but I consider the first one like an all-timer in terms of comic book movies, but it's up there. I mean, it's close to the first one. I loved Guardians 3.
It was good.
I enjoyed it. And like we said, people were chewing my butt out like all week because I did the video on Monday about the 70% drop. And I'm like, look, the reason I did that is because there's historical mathematics there with Marvel movies. When they hit a negative 70% on a Monday over Sunday drop on that first weekend, we can kind of set our watch by what happens because we've seen it time and time again. People are, you root for this to fail. Ha ha, you eating crow. And I'm like, well, the math is what the math was. And this movie bucked that trend. And that's great because I'm like, we said, but save for one thing, the positive word of mouth of this film, and it did. It's great. And we were saying earlier, and this was probably before you might have tuned in, we're like, look, if any movie is going to buck the trend for the MCU at this point that people are going to remember most fondly from phases 4 at 5, I love the fact that it's the one with Chris Pratt in it.
Yep.
That's just great. I am fine with that. I am fine. Because hopefully that will send a message.